Welcome to See I Am Me. I am your host, RaShaun Warren, and today we have an outstanding guest. This is one that you can identify with, something that's going to paint the big picture, something that's going to give you some deep perspective. I have the big Iman today. I have Colonel Chaplain Shabazz. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to See I Am Me. And today we got a great guest for you. I would introduce him, but I'm going to do him the favor and let him introduce himself. Right now, I'll pass it over to the big Iman, Colonel Chaplain Shabazz. What you got, sir?
Woo! You know, I'm excited, man, to be on the screen with my twin. My twin is a little taller than me. I'm about 6'5". He's obviously about 6'7", but we got these big, overwhelming personalities. So I'm just so happy that I can be a guest on your show. Thank you.
And you know what? When I thought about the show and kind of how I wanted to do this, you're the first person that popped into my mind. When we started talking about perspective and gaining understanding of who you are, I think, like you said before, the big personality is what really matters. It's not saying that everyone has to have a big personality, but some people just have that thing within them. And it's would you kind of agree? It's kind of hard sometimes operating with a big personality. What do you think about that?
Well, it is hard, but as we've discussed many times before, obviously our relationship go back to captains at Fort Sill. You know, during those times, even though I was out and about, honestly, I was somebody else because I was suppressing my personality. I was trying to be like everybody else, and I was ineffective. And, you know, one day it was a guy, my twin said, you know, sir, you're an inspiration to me, and we like the way you move. And, you know, that what you said kind of stuck in my head. And I said to myself, he don't even really know the real me, right? And I said, I wonder what he liked the real me. And so probably about 3 years from that time, eventually I just started being the real me. And I think it has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, right? But as life would have it, the other folks, it has actually exploded my reach and influence across the globe. Right now, I had my last for 2023, I had 1.3 billion views of my videos. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I get a lot of hate, but man, I get a lot of love too for my big, ginormous personality that's coupled with my big, ginormous body. And people identify with the stories of resilience that I have.
Yeah, you know, and that's awesome to hear because today's episode for everyone out there is a title, True Grit, Resilience and Perspective. And perspective is different from everyone else. I'll share a quick story with you all. Like when I was young, I was watching something and I told my mom, I was like, man, that guy is really smart. My mom was like, no, he's not, Ray. He just read something that you haven't read.
Woo!
And when I kind of sat back and thought about it, that was the first inkling that I had with perspective, is what my mom was provided to me at that moment.
Right.
So, real quick before we get deep into the interview, tell us about you. And you know what I've always found awesome about you is that not only are you always being yourself, you being your authentic self, but you're like an educated man. You've done a bunch of things in the realm of education and institutional wisdom as well.
Yeah. That came from a lot of poor self-esteem, poor self-worth, taking the perspective that your mom said. I didn't have that perspective. I walked into a education center one time. I had just gotten my second Article 15, getting ready to get put out in the Army, and I saw on the top of the door, most people die at 25, but they're not buried until they're 75, right? And at that time, I'm thinking I'm not a smart person. And I asked him, what does that mean? He said, most people give up on their hopes and dreams because they paint a false narrative to themselves about who they are and what they can achieve. So they really just wait until they're 75 years old so somebody can throw the dirt on them. And he said, there's no reality but the one you make for yourself. And then he said something similar to your mom. He says, until you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will never change. And he said it. He said, I'm going to say this again because don't look like you getting it. He said, until you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will never change, right? And so I thought about that for a couple of days, and then some other events inspired in my life where, you know, it was time for me to grow up because I was getting put out of the Army. And I said to myself, I'm going to become the most educated person on earth, right? Seriously, I said, I'm going to become the most educated person on earth. And I have spent the last 25 years in school, 2 doctorate degrees and 5 master's degrees, right? I don't know if I'm the most educated person on earth, but I tried. And so when I talk to you about that trauma, I was molested at 10 years old by a family friend, special education in the 8th grade, failed the 9th grade, failed the 10th grade, and just when I thought I was on my feet, I failed the 12th grade. God has given me a big, ginormous body, right? So nobody really cared about grades back then, so I was allowed to go to school and play sports. But to be honest with you, although I was always good in sports, I got to college and I was still struggling with my identity because I got molested. So I didn't know whether I was a man or a woman, even though I had this big body. And so every person that would look at me for more than 3 seconds, I would overwhelm them with my size and beat the hell out of them, right? But that came to a head one night because people were tired of me bullying them. And so I got shot in the back, beat with a shovel, where I almost lost my life. They sent me out to Tyler Medical Center. And so all these years, I've been trying to find a way to discover my true self and be smart. And so when you see all the degrees and all the accomplishments, that comes from a lot of trauma. And so I like to tell my story about that type of trauma to let people know all you got to do is dedicate yourself to the process. And as your mother said so eloquently, change your perspective on how you see things.
That was powerful. That was very powerful. I'm glad you shared that with the audience. It's important that people know that, hey, you can change, but also everyone's going through something. Everyone's dealing with something. And before we get into the next clip and episode, talk through all this, I want to go to a commercial break and make sure that we let our sponsors know that, hey, we're happy that they're here for us.
Hey, it's AC of AC Sports Live, an interactive sports talk show where your comments are part of the show. Every show we focus on the sports stories of today, with commentary on sports takes, my 2 cents, which is a reaction to my social media feed, Sports Flicks, where we take a look at sports movies and give a quick review. We have a segment called Mental Reps, where we have words of inspiration to help battle the dark side of men's mental health. And then there's the Tender Love Report. Who's being soft or petty in the world of sports? All takes are welcome under one condition. Say it with your chest. I'll see you there.
All right, we are back. Thank you to the NGBN TV network for giving us this opportunity. Hey, Chaplain, now that we're back, I want to go a little bit deeper. I know you just went super deep. You touch a lot of people. They probably wasn't ready for that. But since you talked about, resiliency and perseverance and your last statement before we went to commercial, give me some examples of your definitions of perseverance along your journey.
Well, when I talk about perseverance, I'm talking about going to a place that nobody else can reach because nobody actually knows you, right? And so a lot of people set these false narratives and limitations on you. But honestly, whether it's your mother, whether it's your father, whether it's your wife, whether it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever kind of friend you have, nobody actually knows what you're capable of. The only person that knows what you're capable of is you. And so this thing called resilience, as an educated person, I broke it down. To me, it's re-silence. I'm re-silencing those negative voices in my head that tell me that I can't do something. And so if I can't do something, which I am ADHD, right? And all of us who go to these military schools, another thing that you'll find out about me, if my friend goes into these schools and they have to read a book, it's going to take them one time and they get an A. The most important thing in your life is to understand who you are. I have ADHD. I got to read a book 30 times just to get a C. So I can't compare myself to my friend because they're on the commandant's list or they get to go out and play golf at 12 o'clock. I got to read all night just to make a C, just to pass the school. And once you become comfortable with that, then you understand what perseverance is. The thief of joy is comparison. So when I think about myself, when I think about the success I've had, all these master's degrees and PhDs, I told some students the other day because they were so impressed with the PhDs, and I said, hey, my PhD people usually rewrite it 3 times. I said I had 26 rewrites. They said, what? I had 26 rewrites, and I wasn't so much discouraged because I understood my limitations. The only discouragement came is when I started looking on the outside and thinking that everybody else was so much smarter than me. No, they weren't smarter than me. I just had to put in more effort. So, Ray, when I think about resilience, I think about re-silencing the negative voices that are inside of my head that tell me I can't do something.
Yeah, those negative voices, and we all got, like sometimes you might want to do something, but you got that thing in the back of your head that's saying, can you really accomplish it? Even the champions of today, they have that doubt about if they can get something accomplished as they go on their down their journey. And since we're talking about the champions of the world, which I see you as a champion,
Amen.
Yeah. And what obstacles in your life has tested your resilience? Like you talked about a little bit earlier about you being a bully. I mean, about being molested and getting over those hurdles. I know you're still working through them, but like what obstacles? I won't say stopped you. What obstacles held you back and made you be a little bit more resilient in order to get over them?
Well, I mean, those obstacles, as you said so eloquently, are still present, right? So if I walk into a room, I work with some pretty high level people right now. If I walk into a room, I have to literally, talk to myself so I won't have an anxiety attack. Because the first thing I do when I see all of these high level people, I automatically think that I'm dumb, that I am not worthy, that I am not as smart as them, and I'm gonna make a fool out of myself. So what I do is I take deep breaths and talk to myself and say, man, you are just as good as anybody else. You will be fine. As long as you understand to stay in your lane, which the things that you're good at, you're good at. When you start to look at other people's lanes, then you're probably gonna sabotage yourself. So those obstacles I have to practice every day. Those obstacles, I always have to remember that if I don't quiet those noises, I'm going to crash and burn. The second type of obstacle that I face is self-awareness, right? I have to understand that I'm an extremely large human being, right? That's intimidating to people, right? And so if I don't lower my wings of humility to understand what they may perceive as a threat, then that's an obstacle. this is going to sound funny, but it's in some ways it's funny, in other ways it's sad. I don't go to men barbers anymore, because every time that I go to a man who's a barber, he communicates a threat to me. He says, "Oh my God, you're a big old guy. I would have to shoot you. Oh my God, you're a big old man. I'm telling you, I would have to kill you. Oh, you're a big old guy. You know, I fought a guy like you, your size, and I had to knock him out." And I'm starting to think, like, I got to stop going to these guys. I don't like to be threatened, right? And I feel uncomfortable in the chair, and I start sweating. And he's like, "Man, you act like you're in the gym." I say, "Well, you know, I just, you know, I have to tell a nice tall tale. But, you know, I don't like to be threatened like that." So I just start going to women barbers, and they're nicer, and they cut my hair, and I go on. But my point to that is, you know, sometimes in life we fool ourselves, and we put ourselves in situations where we're uncomfortable, and it affects our self-esteem. And so while I've never told that story, but, you know, you're my friend, and I'll tell you, I have to constantly put myself in situations where I make people feel comfortable. And it doesn't take away from me. It actually tries to help people see me as more approachable.
Yeah, you know, and I can identify with that. You know, I'm 6'7", 315 pounds. I'm relatively strong, relatively strong, you know. Relatively, you know, so I'm in the gym. I got the 100-pound dumbbells, and I'm like shoulder pressing. I'm doing my thing, right? I'm shoulder pressing. And a guy, he looks like he's trying to talk to me. So I take my headphones off, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" You know, all nice and kind, you know, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Man, I would have to shoot you." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What are you talking about, guy?" And he was like, "Man, you strong like that, man." And, you know, I thought to myself, I'm just in here lifting weights.
Yes.
I'm just trying to improve my physical prowess.
Yes.
And someone is viewing me like that. And I think sometimes people, like, I understand you because I am more like you, but I think sometimes people don't understand the things that they're saying to people and how they affect other people. They're creating those obstacles for us as well, even though we already have those mental obstacles in our mental reservoir. So we're like trying to work through that. And I guess as you talk about perseverance and through your journey and these obstacles, is that kind of like are you like me? Like, when I come into a room, I know my personality is big. I know I'm big. So at times, that self-awareness, I'm like, let me power myself down a little bit.
100%.
So people can communicate with me and not be afraid of me.
Well, you have to, because everybody has an ego, right? And so you coming in, or I'm coming in, I'm the big dog automatically, okay? And that's just the fact. My personality plus my size, I'm the big dog. I'm the so-called alpha male, right? Even though I may not carry myself like that, people automatically gravitate to that. So especially for us, we have commanders. You know, we got people who outrank us. And so I always power myself way down, and I talk when people ask me questions, right? Because I know I can make friends with a light post, right? But sometimes people take that as being overconfident, right? And so hence people ask, "Hey, Chaplain, why are you working out at 3:30 in the morning?" Well, again, I'm protecting myself. Nobody's in the gym at 3:30 in the morning but me. By the way, and if all that weight fall on me, I'm probably not going to be here. But, you know, it's a wrap. But I'm protecting myself. I understand who I am. It's a part of self-awareness, and I need to connect with people because I'm in a team sport. United States Army is a team sport. So people see me throwing up big weight like that. I'm already big. I'm already intimidating. And then that's just another obstacle for me. So I've learned how to navigate that space very well.
Oh yeah, totally understand. You know, I think I was watching a documentary. It was probably a documentary on Kanye West, and his mom called him arrogant or something to the fact. And he was like, whoa, you think I'm arrogant? And she was like, no, that's kind of just who you are. She says, because you're the giant. And she said, the giant doesn't know he's the giant.
Facts.
Only the other people sees him as the giant.
Yeah.
And that kind of like stuck in my mind. Like, we understand who we are. You understand who you are, but yet you have to do things to stay resilient in order to make it over your obstacles, the ones that you perceive to have. So also, like, with obstacles become challenges. Obstacles create challenges. So give us an example of how you overcame a challenge in your life to this point, like in your latter part of your life after you turned 40 years young and on. So what challenges did you face that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome them?
Well, as I said before, those challenges are every day. But, being able to have a sense of self-awareness, man, I tell you, that is the greatest challenge to overcome, in my opinion, because, you're going in situations every day. My ADHD is a problem. All right. I'm in ILE, which is school for majors. Most every test, I'm getting a no-go on it the first time. I mean, that's just, for me, that's standard data. And, that second test, you out of there, right? And so for me, the first test really is looking at the landscape, seeing what I have to do, and I'm ready to take the second test, okay? And so the normal person who hadn't been through anything is saying, oh man, this is going to be embarrassing. My peers are going to think I'm dumb. But if you have a sense of self-awareness going in there, I already know that I'm going to fail the first test. And so I take the second test. And so I've overcome that. Going to war college, right? I already know that paper is a monster. I'm a chaplain. Chaplains don't do a whole lot of operations. And so I know I have this overriding document to write, and I got to get it right because, it's only one no-go for war college, right? And so it's due in May. I finished mine in February. And the reason why I finished mine in February is because I need probably about 2 months to edit that thing because I can't spell very well, right? So if you understand that about yourself, then you make adjustments to ensure that you do what you need to do. You send it out. I send it out to English teachers. You got spell check. You got whatever, Grammarly. I'm sending that thing everywhere to make sure it's tight. And so by the time I got to turn it in, I'm good to go. But most people, in my humble opinion, they're so busy trying to be like everybody else, they can't overcome those obstacles because they're trying to hide. I don't need to hide that I got ADHD. I don't need to hide that I'm a little slow, right? I say, hey, this is my journey. And so that's how I overcome my obstacles.
Oh, hey, Chaplain, you bringing some fire right now.
Right.
You bring some fire. But real quick, we're going to go to commercial break, and we're going to get right back into it with Chaplain Shabazz.
Wow.
Hello, welcome to Veritas. I'm your host, Adam Colazetti, and I'm here to guide you on a meditative adventure like no other. Join me and lose yourself in your imagination as we travel the outer reaches of the cosmos, quest for powerful talismans, and explore the inner realm of your subconscious. What might you find along the way? But be warned, fair traveler, this path is not for the faint of heart. On this path, of one thing I am certain, dragons be here. Are you ready?
We are back. All right. So, man, we done covered a lot of ground up to this point, and I believe that it's been very enlightening, and I'm taking a lot. I got my notes. I'm trying to figure out, like, all right, these are some of the things that I've experienced as well, and I'm sure people out there are experiencing, and they probably have a sense of relief to saying, like, hey, I'm not the only one.
Right.
And as we stay into the context of true grit and resilience. Let's talk about how resiliency has contributed to your personal growth. I can tell you a quick story about me, and then I'll pass it off to you. So I came up in a single parent home. I never knew my dad. I had a speech impediment. I used to stutter like a champ. I too was that senior guy in high school that had to take freshman level classes. I was academically ineligible for basketball when I was a freshman in college because I wasn't able to get my academics together.
Correct.
I'm that guy at that point that had to do things over and over and over again just to get to the destination. But somehow I still showed up at the destination the same time everybody else got there.
Yeah.
So tell that to myself made me grow and made me believe in self. But how has resilience contributed to your personal growth?
Well, that story obviously that you tell is my story. That's why I always say we're twins. So I've dealt with that up my whole life. And so when you're talking about resilience and grit, all of those things prepare you for where you are now, right? And so I didn't reach the destination at the same time as my peers. They were way ahead of me, but because they didn't have some of that resilience, I've superseded them, right? I mean, by leaps and bounds. And so I think sometimes this time is also a false construct, right? We're looking to get places at a certain time, at a certain, it's almost a comparative thing, right? I'm going to get ready to go into my best job here probably in the next 4 months. I in my mind, I probably should have had that job 2 jobs ago, right? But there's an old saying called truth out of season don't bring no harvest, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, truth out of season don't bring no harvest. Maybe it wasn't my time. Obviously, it wasn't my time because now I'm more resilient, I'm more mature, and I don't have the angst really of trying to prove myself that I'm good enough. Now I know I'm good enough, right? And so I don't have to have the anxiety of that. And so all of those things that have gotten me to this place, this resilience, this fighting and this scratching just to be, average, because I don't think I'm above average. A lot of people may think I am. I think I'm just an average guy who gets up every morning and gets after it just to be average. But that resilience has contributed to me being an incredible person, right? And I love what Kanye West's mother told him in that documentary. She said, what does the giant see when they look in the mirror? He says himself. She says himself. She said, but everybody else knows he's a giant. Everybody else knows. And so when I meet I think I told you the other day, saw this guy in the hall, and I like to stop and talk to people. I don't just walk by them with my highfalutin rank. And I stopped and I said, man, how you doing? And this guy started crying like it's the Niagara Falls. He said, why would a person like you talk to me? I know who you are. I seen your story. I know all the education you have. You're a colonel. Why would a person like you talk to me? I said, young man, stop crying. I am you.
Powerful. Powerful.
He needs to change the perception on how he sees himself. I'm not special. I just did grimy, gritty, special things to get to this point.
Yeah, sometimes people don't see the work that's being put in.
Yes.
They don't see, they only see you at the place of occupation.
That's correct.
And everything that they see there may not necessarily be who you are. That's just the person that you have to be in that environment in order to help others. But they don't see, Chaplain, I know you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you in the gym and you benching like 400 pounds. And
That's right.
And then when they see you, that it's not natural, is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you put in a lot of work to get to where you were at. I remember when you first started posting those workout videos, and I told myself, like, man, I gotta get in the game. I gotta get in the game, man. Because I was like, ain't no chaplain gonna outlive me. You know what I mean?
I saw your video. Is it like at 2:30 in the morning? I say, man, Ray getting up at 2:30. I thought I was the man.
Oh no, it goes back to what you said. Hey, I got to the destination at the same time as everybody else, but that's because I left earlier.
Woo!
They were sitting in the bed, and I was already on the road 3 hours before driving.
That's right.
So when I showed up and they saw me there when they got there, they didn't see the work. They didn't see me being in the ditches, in the trenches, and only to be where they were at when it was time to be there. So I consider you a mentor. I consider you a friendly friend. I love you to death. And so as a mentor, how are mentors out there influencing other people, and from your perspective, and how has the mentor contributed to resiliency?
Well, mentors are a tricky bag. It's amazing. Me and my wife just had this conversation because a young man who is my mentee, he was, talking, and I just kind of let the mentees talk, of course. And then he said, I'm not getting what that other guy is getting, and it makes me mad because I am doing A, B, C, and D. And so I told him that comparison is the thief of joy. Focus on the process. Look to your left and right. You can see what other people are doing. But when you're talking to your mentor, focus on what you need to do. And so my lovely wife said, if you were my mentor, I would tell you that I didn't want you to be my mentor, right? So I told her that's absolutely right, because your mentor has to be congruent with you. I had a guy who, researched, and he was a 2-star general. I pinged him, say, sir, I want you to be my mentor. And he said, yeah, I know all about you. Great. I'm glad you called. And so in this mentoring process that we were having, so, I'm a pretty transparent guy. I put up that I was shot. I went to jail twice. I was expelled from school. And he called me. He said, take that down. I say, sir? He said, take that down. He said, all you are doing is increasing stereotypes on our race. And I said, sir, that's my story. I said, that's who I am. It's a story of resilience. It's a story of overcoming obstacles. He said, take it down. I said, sir, I can't do that. I said, that's who I am. And so he stopped being my mentor. And I'm good with it. All right? Because I'm not him. A mentor, in my humble opinion, helps you edify your attributes. If I was his mentor and I had a story like mine, I would have said, this is how we need to attack it. I don't attack the person and tell him that your story is not relevant. This is the mistake of mentors. Yeah. And so we have a choice as mentees to choose people that are going to help us get to the next level of thinking. And that brings me into my friendship deal. I just put a video on TikTok this morning. Some people have friends in their lives, which I don't, who tell them, that's my friend. I'm going to tell him what he's doing wrong. I'm going to tell him this. I'm going to tell him that. Well, the people in my life, and you can attest to this, when we talk and you say something, I'm edifying your greatest attributes. I'm telling you what you could do and how you are just the person to do that. Most of our friends who we choose, unfortunately, want to bring out our negative parts. This is horrible, because we have enough people in our lives telling us we ain't good enough. So I don't need my friends telling me I ain't good enough. I get those people out of my lives. And I'll say this quote and I'll end here. It says that all of the scars that come on your heart are not from your enemies. They're from your friends.
I heard this saying one time watching this video. This guy was talking about haters. We all got them. We all got them. And he said, you got to value the haters, right? And what he meant by value the haters, he says, because the haters provide you with some critical feedback. He says, haters are good at pointing out things that you're not necessarily good at. And if you take that in and improve on yourself, then you yourself were able to utilize those negative words to make something positive. And like you saying, as far as resiliency and people, your friends, and I quote, your friends telling you negative things about yourself, that can contribute to what they call in psychology a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Correct.
Because if you continue to hear that stuff, you start to believe that stuff.
That's right.
I believe that you got to have people that are pushing positivity
100%.
on you. And that's what that mentor is. Like I said, I'm glad that I can consider you a mentor, because I can tell you things and I know what I'm going to get from you is going to be right. But I also know it's going to be something that's going to help propel me forward into my next phase.
That's right.
And so let's talk about real quick, like maintaining a resilient mindset. How do you maintain, in your eyes, how do you maintain a resilient mindset?
Well, consistency is the most important thing in life, right? I understand, right? Going back to self-awareness, I understand I got people out there who I inspire. I got millions of people who I inspire. And so even if I don't, like this morning, I didn't feel like going to the gym, but I went for 20 minutes and I posted a 15-minute video of me working out, because I don't know whose life that's going to save, right? And so for me, maintaining that level of consistency helps my mindset. I was driving, I was just coming from the gym one day, and I get a ping on TikTok from Carly's dad. I don't know who Carly's dad is. I went to his profile and saw Carly's dad meant that he had 3 little girls. And he says, I just want to be in your inbox to tell you I was an hour away from suicide. And because I saw your video, I decided not to kill myself. And the reason I decided not to kill myself, because I saw you were an hour away from suicide and you achieved so many great things. I'm going to be like you one day. And my response is pure tears. I cried for the next 30 minutes because God allowed me to put a dumb video up, 1 minute and 56 seconds, that has been viewed 6 million times. And it's saving people's lives, right? And so that keeps me consistent every time I think about a guy like that, the other hundreds of messages I have in my inbox.
Man, that's powerful. We never know when the things that we're doing are affecting other people. And maybe just right now, right? The whole reason this the NGBN TV network came about, right? To help folks, to help people believe in themselves, or for other people to see that, once again, I'm not the only one. Hey, you're touching lives, Chaplain. You're doing it every single day, and you're doing some intentionally, and a lot you're doing unknowingly.
That's right.
We're going to go to a quick commercial break real quick, and then we're going to come back and we're going to hit the final segment.
Hello, we are the MD and Chef team. I'm nutritional chef Michael, joined by my beautiful wife, Dr. Isabel, medical doctor and suicide survivor.
Yes, I was dropped into the world of mental illness back in 2013, and by the grace of God, I survived suicide. But here's what I learned. We don't have a mental illness issue. That's the downstream event. We're focusing downstream. We should be focusing upstream on our brain health and all the things that we can be doing to support our brain health. Because you see, it's like mopping up the floor when the sink is overflowing instead of turning off the faucet. So come and join us on the MD and Chef Team show.
Come join us.
And we are back in the game. All right, chap. So we've covered a lot of ground, and I know we've been moving fast for most people out there, and I hope everything that we're giving you is helping you become a better version of yourself. As we start thinking about who we are as individuals, and we start to confront the things that challenge us, and we combat the obstacles, whether we go over them or whether we go around them or whether we go under them or whether we just bust through them. What are some of the common traits in resilient people that are across different ages? And I say across different ages because I believe at each phase of your life, you're discovering something new about yourself. It's like when the youngsters play a video game. The further you get in the game, the more powerful the enemy, but also the more powerful weapons you get. So what do you think about that as far as the mindset and looking at the different things that you need in order to be resilient?
Well, yeah, at this ripe old age of 55, right? So,
Right.
55, I can't believe it.
Woo!
That's a lot. That's a lot. But one of the things I think about now is being able to speak into people's lives confidence, right? Because I've been through it all, right? And I can tell them specifically, don't quit, right? Don't quit. Because those video games that you're talking about, I used to play them, and you took 1,000 times to get to that higher level. And the more you played, the better you got at it, right? So I can use that example to kids, all right? The more you practice on dunking, the better you got at it, right? By the time you got to a certain stage, people think you've been dunking all your life, right? And so
True.
what people don't understand, like even with weightlifting, I started weightlifting at 50 because of a personal, people, you talk about them haters, right? So I'm a long, skinny, I'm not anymore. I'm a big dude now. But I was a long, skinny runner because the officer corps, everybody said you had to be a runner. So I'm putting in 8 miles a day, even though I was never really good at it. And so I was in the gym one day and I had some 20s and I'm just kind of lifting them because I don't like lifting weights. And these people were crying. I mean, real tears. Like, this big old dude lifting some 20s. And when anything else, Ray, my warrior mentality kicked in. And I said to them, in 4 years, I'm gonna bench press 405 and I'm gonna send y'all the videos. And they just started laughing more. Some people call me Petty LaBelle, right? So, right.
Petty.
Yeah. So, but that brought out my warrior mindset. And in September, I lifted 405 pounds with no spotter, and I sent them the video. But, when you talk about resilience and you talk about haters and you talk about negativity, every man and woman needs an enemy. If you look through any scripture, if you look through any books, every man and woman needs an enemy. That enemy just doesn't need to be yourself. Because there are going to be thousands of people in this world who don't believe in you, and you should not be one of them. But all of those people who doubt you, all of those people who saying you can't, I love those people. because those people make me, you talk about consistency. When I want to lay my big butt down on this couch and eat Popeyes all day, I start thinking about those people. And I said, man, no, I'm going to get up. I'm still going to Popeyes, but I'm going to get a 2-piece instead of a 5-piece.
I don't know about that Popeyes. They told me my blood pressure was high, so I gotta eat the fruits and the vegetables now. You know what I mean? but I can smell it though. I can smell it. So what advice do you have? Like, if you were to, out of your whole mental capacity, if you had one thing, one piece of advice that you can share to others who are facing challenges, what would it be?
Some of the strongest people in the morning cried themselves to sleep last night. I'm going to say that a couple of times. Some of the strongest people in the morning cried themselves to sleep last night. You know why? Because they didn't think they could do it. And when they got up, they were stronger than they were yesterday. And they kept pushing. And they kept pushing. And they kept pushing. And all of a sudden, you see this person. You say, oh, my God, they're phenomenal. But you just don't know how many times they cried themselves to sleep before they got to be phenomenal.
I heard someone say one time that you have survived 100% of your worst days.
Yes.
If you're here right now, you have survived 100% of your worst days. You know, I started making these little videos on my Facebook, and I always start the video out. If you listening to this message right now, that means you woke up this morning. Yeah. So therefore, you are already winning.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people don't believe that they experience any wins throughout the course of the day. They don't believe that anything positive is going their way.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you, like, you woke up this morning. You get an opportunity to face those challenges. You get an opportunity to embrace yourself, your authentic self. You get an opportunity to deal with the negativity in this world and overcome it. But you won't overcome it every single time. Sometimes you're going to get punched in the face.
You need to.
You know, you can be the most elite boxer.
You need to.
And you're going to get punched in the face.
Need to.
But when we start talking about resiliency, you got to take that hit. You got to take that punch. And then you got to say, I'm going to continue on to victory.
Right.
I just think everything that you shared today has been outstanding. It has been mind-blowing for some people. I am sure someone out there heard a message that you gave to them today, that you gave from your heart. You gave from your mind, from you, Colonel, Chaplain, Shabazz,
Woo!
Big Iman.
Woo!
You gave it to people. I guess I could say, so what would you say for those people who are stuck in the pain and cannot get out? What would you say about that? They're stuck in pain and can't get out.
Well, I would say to them that you only sit in shiznick because you like how it smells. I'm gonna say that again. You only sit in shiznick. I'm a chaplain. I gotta be holy. But you only sit in shit because you like how it smells. Dysfunction creates dysfunction. Most of us are so afraid to leave dysfunction because now you got to discover a true self. I have a saying that says, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you. Right? I had to be comfortable with leaving the excrement that I was in. I was sitting in that crap all the time, making excuses. In the pain of molestation, in the pain of thinking I was dumb, in the pain of poor self-worth, in the pain of poor self-esteem. I was sitting in that because I was comfortable with that. But you know what I realized, Ray? None of that was present when I was on the basketball court. I was just as cocky. I was arrogant. I was assured of myself. And I'm saying, like, when I leave off this basketball court, I'm drinking myself to sleep at night. What's the difference in that? The difference is, one, I wouldn't allow myself to sit in that type of pain, that type of poor self-esteem. I felt elite on that court. And so I needed to find a way to be elite in life. So I had to start practicing life like I was practicing on that court. And that's why I feel elite right now. That's why I feel, a sense of assurity in any place that I walk in that I can be myself.
That's powerful. I didn't, at the beginning, I don't think you told people that you were a Division I basketball athlete.
Yes.
As was I, and so I can like purely identify with what you just said, because when I was on the court, I felt invincible.
That's right.
It's me, my teammates. I know I've been putting up the shots. I know I was working out. We were winning. And I just had that sense that as long as I do what I'm supposed to do my part, we were going to be successful. And and those lessons like straight transcended who I believed I was as a youngster. But like you too, but when I got off that court, I was struggling in class. I was trying to figure it all out. I'm the oldest. So when we started talking about resiliency, I'm the oldest. I'm the first to do everything. I'm the first to graduate high school, first to go to college, first to have a like legit straight up career path in which I could retire in. And all of that came from being resilient, but I was taught that resiliency, oddly enough, from someone who didn't achieve a lot in the eyes of regular people.
In
Like,
the
my
eyes.
mom was a single mom.
In the eyes.
And she didn't have someone to help her. And she raised all 5 of us, and most of the kids in the hood, that was resiliency. So when times got hard, I remember my example. And my example propelled me to success. My mom told me one time about being humble, right? So I was like, hey, they told me I need to be humble. My mom was like, what does that mean? I said, well, I guess I need to power down kind of and try to fit in. And she was like, blasphemy,
Yeah.
She was like, you be yourself and let others make their determination of who you are, but you got to believe in who you are and not believe in what others say you are.
Well, that's right. That's very important, because if you look at the definition of humble in the dictionary, it means a person that doesn't have a high opinion of themselves, right? And the second point is, people need to redefine what winning is. I got a lot of degrees and I made a lot of rank, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the only one winning. My mom, if you see on all of my posts, I have a son never forgets. And the reason I have a son never forgets, because the most important person in my life was my mom. She has a high school diploma, raised 3 kids, and she moved us from the hood into the suburbs, and most nights we didn't eat. We ate government cheese and stuff like that. We had roaches on our pork chops, and she used to come in. We used to save her one, and we see the roaches flying off to the pork chops. She'd wipe them off and eat them and go to sleep. That's winning. That's resilience. That's a person who has raised 3 kids, and all of us have college degrees, right? That person actually won. We get out a nice paycheck from the military, and I can walk over there to the refrigerator and get anything that I want. My mom used to come home and she used to eat sugar bread and go to work the next day and do it all over again for the next 20, 30 years. So we need to redefine what winning is. And that's why I don't compare myself to anybody, because you start to look at people and you start to think you ain't winning. And that goes back to this humility thing. I had a people that brought me on the podcast, and he said, I really got to challenge you on this humility thing. He said, you got a weird definition of humility. And I said, men define themselves. I said, most people in the world call me arrogant and sure of myself because I'm always talking about my degrees and stuff like that and all the people that I helped. I said, if I was arrogant, I would just sit on my couch and talk about my degrees and talk about all the things that I accomplished and tell people how great I am. I'm using those things as a resource to help other people. That's humility. I've put 83 people through officer school, helped 12 people get their PhDs, and started a master's scholarship fund for enlisted soldiers, right? That's humility. I could just want to be on top of the pile and say, man, look how great I am, boy. See, that's arrogance. But humility is actually taking what God has blessed you with and sharing it with the world. I think we have this definition all wrong.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Chaplain, hey, I want to thank you for sharing your insight today as we wind down. I want to let you know I appreciate you sharing your message, sharing your wisdom, and sharing your life. Any final thoughts or takeaways, or this is an opportunity to share where people can get a hold of you at if they want to get that good advice?
just put in college Shabazz, and I'm everywhere. I try to be everywhere. LinkedIn, Twitter, X, whatever they call it these days, TikTok, anywhere that I can inspire people, I am. But I'd like to say, in closing, seriously, there are going to be thousands of people in this world who don't believe in you, and you should not be one of them. The most important person in your development is you. Your wife can't give it to you. Your children can't give it to you. Your friends can't give it to you. You have to find out actually who you are, right? People always talk about being authentic. I'd like to challenge that proposition. Like, how do you know what authentic is if you hadn't studied yourself? I took 5 years and studied what I don't like, what makes me mad, why I'm not achieving, why I have poor self-esteem, why I have poor self-concept. I studied myself and put it in a book. And so therefore, when I meet a friend who is talking negative to me or wants to, people all the time say, Chap, I want to talk to you. I think I see some things that you need to change. I always say to them, because now that I studied myself, I said respectfully, I don't let people speak into my life without permission. Honestly, people really get mad when I say that. But think about that. You don't get to come to me and speak into my life what you think that I'm doing wrong, and you really don't know me, right? I don't give you permission to do that. So you're going to come in and hurt my feelings, and I'm going to be so passive. I'm going to say, well, I'm going to let him hurt my feelings because I don't want to hurt his feelings, right? So I had to. I never liked that, but I didn't have the courage enough to tell people that. So in my closing here, when you talk about being authentic, you have to go and study who you are and what your actual values and core beliefs are. The last thing I'll say, because we talked about competing, I always tell my friends, if you compete with me, you're not my friend. We can compete against the standard. We can compete and try to make people better. But when you start competing against me and putting me down in that competition, you are no longer my friend. You're my competition. And when you become my competition, that's a problem for you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, sir. I want everybody else to know out there, hey, this was True Grit, part of CIME. We're providing that motivation for you. We're giving you real people talking about real stories, and hopefully you can glean some sense from what we're talking about in order to improve yourself. That is Colonel Chaplain Shabazz, the big Iman, and I want to thank you for tuning in today.
Listen.